So, Caitlin Clark is a basketball player. We all know that. Caitlin Clark is a basketball player, and like, she is a very good one. And I don't even think the biggest Caitlin Clark haters will say that she's not a very good basketball player. The problem with the whole situation isn't basketball. It does seem like WNBA players want her gone. And I'm going to be talking a little bit in this video, not just about, say, that what the WNBA players are saying, just the general, what I feel like is a general sentiment towards her. And yeah, just with some of the fans. One thing is that it is very clear that when players actually are spending time around her, no one has an issue with Caitlin Clark, the person, other than some players. Actually, I was about to say other than some players, like any of the players that have actually spent time around her, everyone being like, oh, but like it's like the All-Star weekend was fake love. None of the players that play with her on the All-Star team are there calling out Caitlin Clark publicly. None of the players in the Fever are doing it. Even Nalissa Smith, who's probably gotten it as bad, and people are calling out Caitlin Clark on behalf of Nalissa Smith. Even she won't do that, because you saw after the playoffs, the first game when Nalissa played the 8 minutes and really struggled, like straight away after the game, there was the clip of her, like what looked like Caitlin's parents trying to like keep her head up and talking to her. If you've ever, like, you won't see a negative word about Caitlin from Nalissa Smith's family. And like, look, they've got Twitter fingers. They will, if they had a problem with Caitlin, they would say it. They don't. So it's very clearly not her problem. It is people that haven't interacted with her. But I do think there is a large chunk of the WNBA, not only that want her gone, but will not stop until she's gone. And the problem is that this is not ending. Outside of Angel Reese, who I do think has dealt with more crap than anyone else, these young players coming into the league have dealt with it through college. College basketball on the women's side is bigger than it ever was. Like these players like Caitlin, Paige Beckers, Cameron Brink, Juju Watkins soon. Like, depends on Kiki Ariafin probably if she's at USC. Hannah Hidalgo, Full Wiley. All of these really big names coming through. And then you just never know what's going to happen over the next few years when it comes to college ball. What freshman comes in and is balling as well. What top recruit is balling. These players are getting more viewership than the WNBA. Women's college basketball is bigger than the WNBA, which is why I'll be covering it all this year. A lot of people are like, oh, but like your channel's going to die. There's no basketball. Basketball never stops. Basketball never stops. Caitlin Clark's done. Your channel's going to die. Yeah, there's going to be a dip. But basketball never stops. And I'm going to come into next season with more knowledge about the sport, with doing men's stuff. Basketball doesn't stop. And it's going to take a lot harder than Caitlin Clark not playing basketball anymore to shut me up. I've been doing this full time for a decade. But it's very clear that the players, that I would say more than 50% of the players want the league to be where it was previously. And the reason I think that is because their current salaries match up to where the league used to be. I think the day the CBA happens and the max contract gets risen to $750K and the team salary cap goes from 1 million to 4 million, like that's realistically what it is. Like for people being like, oh, they've only, like the NBA gets certain things, like 4 million salary cap is nothing for these teams. It is nothing for these teams. We're going to see potentially a 4 million salary cap with a 1 million max contract. And the second that comes in, and you might be saying, oh, but like the TV deal is being negotiated before Caitlin Clark. Yeah, you can. The difference is as well that people don't realize after 3 years they can renegotiate the TV deal. If the TV deal was being negotiated today, you know why they get 200 million a year? At this point in time, the WNBA are well within their rights to look for 500 million a year. If they can pull in comparable numbers next year to this year, and that is non-Caitlin Clark and Caitlin Clark games with the addition of Paige Beckers coming into the league, all they have to do is put equal numbers in. Equal numbers next year. The year after, you've got like Flaw J coming in the year after Juju Watkins. All they have to do is keep steady for 3 years, which I think they're going to do. We saw more and more viewers in every game. They just got to keep steady. they're going to probably renegotiate the 500-600 million a year instead of 200 million. And then you're going to start to see multiple players making millions a year, making 1 million salary a year. And for some players, like the Ages, like Caitlin, like Angel Reese, they obviously make a lot more in endorsements. But there are a lot of max contract players that maybe don't have that endorsement money. Like, look, I don't think teams are going to be rushing to put like Natasha Howard on billboards. Like, no offense to Natasha Howard, serious player. But like those type of players aren't making the millions. But in the future, that level of player will be making the millions. So I think that this all stops once the real money comes in. The problem is that these players have not gained any extra money. There's not that many extra fans at Washington games unless they're playing Caitlin Clark. And as well as that, we're not in Washington, at like Washington, Connecticut, whoever it is, unless it's Caitlin Clark. And also, they're not financially seeing, like, they're having to deal with a lot more crap without financially reaping the benefits. Like, and that's the one thing I will always say. It's like, obviously not to Caitlin Clark or Angel Reese's level, but like, I got a lot, like, I've taken my fair share of like some abuse on social media. Like, look, I've been doing this long enough. That is the reality of social media. Like, I'm 27 years old now. I unfortunately had to start dealing with it when I was 18. So like I kind of developed a bit of a thicker skin. No one like, but the difference is that I always say this: when things are going really well, you laugh off. No matter what's said to you, you laugh it off. If things are going super, super well, like if you are a player in this league, you're making serious money, your team's winning, everything's going well, a lot of the time, you not that it's right. Like I don't think, for example, like Dejanay Carrington calling out the stuff, I don't think she's let it affect her. I think she sees the stuff, almost laughs it off and shares it to be like, this is an absolute disgrace, which is completely fine to do. But it's like, when obviously things aren't going well, it starts to affect you, and it affects you, it becomes worse. And the more it affects you, the worse it gets. The more trolls know it starts to affect you, it starts to get worse and worse and worse and spiral out of hand. But I actually think the players that want Caitlin Clark out of the league don't realize that if Caitlin Clark stops playing basketball today and walks away, Paige Beckers is going to lead to the same crap. Juju Watkins is going to lead to the same stuff. A lot of people think this is a black and white issue. It's not. It's not. Like, the amount of stuff, like the Messi and Ronaldo debate, is an Argentinian versus a guy from Madeira. The amount of xenophobic stuff that gets said about both of them in the arguments, it is toxic fandom in sports. People thinking that if Paige these fans aren't gonna latch on to Paige Beckers, if those people are still there, and especially are still around, and I think they will be, because a lot of these people at the times are internet trolls. Like, I think a lot of them are internet trolls that latch on to something, just like the Messi Ronaldo debate. They latch on to some sort of sport debate, and no matter what Paige Beckers does, if they've latched on to Paige Beckers, nothing will change. If they end up latching on to Juju Watkins, nothing will change. Like, these players, it is now a preventative measure. You're not going to stop anything. And as I've said, the WNBA needs to have security in games and better social media training for these players. And also, like, need to do what the NBA does. Players need to have people managing their social media accounts. It is what it is. Like, they need to do what the Premier League footballers do, where you effectively have quote-unquote finstas. Like, you have your public Instagram that you have a manager run, basically, and then you have your own private Instagram for people you know in real life. You can follow whoever you want on your private Instagram, but you can make sure that it's just, if you want to post something there, if you want to interact with people, it's all in the private one. Like, and the same with stuff like Twitter, the same with other stuff. But at the same time, look, I think it's a kind of learning experience, but the fact is that we've seen it from players is that I'm not going to say they're wrong what they're doing, but I think they're putting stuff in the wrong place. They're equating all the crap to her. And I think that, like, Stephanie White, was perfect. Was absolutely perfect. And, like, there was a reporter today that shared a post and was like, that did the opposite and was like, I just received a hate email for the first time ever, and obviously the email just looked like a YouTube comment or a tweet reply. Like, it's not, like, it's obviously wrong, but like, come on, it's like everybody's read stuff that is objectively just wrong in Twitter replies. But then it went back and somebody found her sharing hate emails multiple times in the past. She was like, it's the first time this has ever happened. So it's like the media are feeding into this. And the problem is that especially when it comes to the media and social media, is these WNBA players are chronically online. Like, they're terminally online. So these players are seeing every single thing that's being written about them. They're seeing every single thing that's being written about others, whether it's from, and the problem is that even if it's from what they believe are, oh, is this a good faith journalism? The reality is that with the WNBA, there is no good faith journalism. Like, what gets clicks is sensationalism. What gets clicks is a player misspeaking and reporting on it. And look, I do that myself. At the end of the day, like, look, we're in the views business, whether you're in the social media, whether you're in legacy media, whether you're in print media, whether you're in online media, online print media. Like, your goal is to talk about topics that people are going to find interesting. And your goal is, whether it be titles for articles, pictures on articles, thumbnails for YouTube videos. Your goal is to get people to click. Your goal for getting people interested is picking a topic that people are interested in. Your goal to get people to watch for longer is by keeping them engaged in it. And that's realistically the goal. And I think the issue is is that the vast majority of the fans, I think one thing Stephanie White didn't say, the media has some responsibility for platforming certain things, but also when it comes to like viewership, like, the viewers also have responsibility, to an extent, to support people talking about the sport. Like, I would absolutely love to be spending more time talking about Fee Collier. I will be making a Fee Collier today video, don't worry. Unbelievable. But like, the biggest story today should be Fee Collier. But the problem is it's just not, because it's not going to get clicks. So if you're somebody that's complaining about that, the only way you're going to fix that is making sure you don't watch something like this. You only watch the ones about basketball. And the reality is that as much as people love to talk about sports, the same with the NBA. Sport is the greatest soap opera known to mankind.